Okay, guys, Adam Trigger here. It is Friday. It's time to talk college basketball. Sweet 16. Nice winner for me last night. Alabama to Texas Tech in a money line parlay. Had plus 110 on that. It gets there with a great comeback from Texas Tech. And I've now got 6 straight wins across all sports. So phenomenal start to me for the week so far. And we're just going to be patient. I haven't put anything up yet. I have not played anything yet on Friday. I'll talk about why that is when I'm talking about the basketball games, but I'm not just going to put anything up for sale because we've got a run going. I'm trying to keep the run going. So we're probably going to go for 7 straight in some sport today, whether it be Major League Baseball or college basketball or, KBO in the morning. But yeah, we're going to try to keep the great 6-8, the run going, which is currently 6-0. So just head on over to my page, grab a 7 or 30-day pass, which I do think we have a little bit of a discount on right now, and just roll with me because we're seeing it well right now. And like I said, my goal is to continue that. Not going to force anything out just for the sake of selling an individual package. It's just not what I'm going to do. We got to talk basketball, though. It's the Sweet 16, and I really feel like I kind of nailed yesterday. I said I thought all 4 favorites would win. All 4 favorites won. 3 of them ended up covering. I felt like pretty much the numbers were entirely spot on. And in a lot of cases, they were. That Arizona game, I'm sorry, two of the favorites ended up covering. All 4 won. That Arizona game, I pretty much kind of said I didn't think they could really go toe-to-toe with Duke. If they covered, it would be like a backdoor situation. And that's exactly what happened. Coming into today, I kind of feel the same about this round. The one game the one game I think we could see a mild upset in where an underdog wins outright is going to be the first one we're going to talk about here. And that is going to be Ole Miss. They're taking on Michigan State. And this is kind of the one where I think if one of the higher seeds is going to lose, and it's not to say a different higher seed won't lose, but I think the one that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is this Ole Miss team getting the win. So I've now played against Michigan State twice. So I'm having a very good, postseason, more so in the lesser tournaments. I went 4-1 in the CBI. The NIT has been solid for me. I probably will have a 5% play on Monday in the Crown. That's kind of the tournament that I'm really waiting for. I think I can get ahead of, some of the odds makers in that. But the NCAA tournament has been okay. One of the reasons it's maybe not gone as good as it could for me so far has been Michigan State. I've missed on them twice. I've now played against the Spartans in both rounds. And I feel like I maybe deserve to hit one of those games. My gut is telling me to continue to go against Michigan State. You're going to get it at some point. So if you go back to the first round, I had Bryant as an 18-point underdog in a game that was a 5-point game at halftime where they really went toe-to-toe with Michigan State for the first 22 minutes or so. That was a 5-point game at half. I believe out of the half, Bryant had cut that to 3. So that was a 3-point game with about 18 minutes to go. Very competitive first half, and they just fell apart down the stretch. New Mexico was even worse. New Mexico had a 10-point lead in the first half and a 2-point lead at halftime. I felt like they matched Michigan State pretty much. And Michigan State, listen, I don't like to come on here, talk about refs and stuff, but Michigan State got every call in that game and got every call, hit a huge 3 late, and managed to win by 8 on a 7.5-point spread. So the New Mexico loss, I certainly feel like I was very unlucky to not cover that one. That doesn't really, just because Michigan State wasn't able to blow those teams out, doesn't mean they can't win here. But I do think from a numbers perspective, they're a little bit inflated. Not a ton. I would like if the books were going to hang a 5 here or something like that, I'd be all over it. I think 3.5 is probably a fair number for this game. But I still I do show a little bit of line value on Ole Miss. The reason I think Ole Miss is a play here or a potential play, I like their ability to put pressure on Michigan State if they are able to get a lead. That's one thing New Mexico couldn't do. New Mexico got a 10-point lead and kind of went cold toward the end of the first half. I think it would be less likely for Ole Miss to do that. The other thing I like about Ole Miss is I don't think they're going to give up many easy buckets in terms of like where Michigan State is just able to just score with their front court size. Ole Miss is good at cutting off transition. And, I think there's a scenario here where Ole Miss is scrappy enough where Michigan State has some trouble running half-court offense against them. And this is an Ole Miss defense that rates out pretty strong on a national level. I've had them top 30 defensively, and I think they're built to pose far more trouble to Michigan State, in my opinion, than a New Mexico, or definitely than Bryant, but even a New Mexico team that I thought was pretty solid defensively all season. The other thing I really like about Ole Miss is they don't turn the ball over at all. So that goes hand in hand with good transition defense and the ability to cut off transition. Well, one way you cut off transition is not turn the ball over. And they don't turn it over at all. Third nationally for the Rebels with just 8.4 turnovers per game. They can shoot the three. Like, there is a scenario where Ole Miss gets hot shooting the ball, and I think they become very difficult to beat. And I also think, like, the one thing that kind of jumped out to me when I was kind of looking, Ole Miss is outside the top 300 in total rebounds this year. That's somewhat shocking to me because I feel like if you watch this team play lately, I don't feel like when I'm watching them that they're really getting crushed on the glass by any means. So I think that's maybe a little bit misleading. I think Ole Miss is like a little bit better of a rebounding team than maybe the numbers give them credit for. And that's going to be kind of the key for them. I think if they can sort of go toe to toe a little bit with that Michigan State front court, not give up second chance points, keep Michigan State out of transition, I think there's a real chance that we finally see one of these underdogs get a win here, and it ends up being Ole Miss. So I have not bet this yet, but that is a way I'm strongly leaning as far as Sweet 16 college basketball for Friday night. The other possibility here, and we'll go into game number 2 that we're going to talk about. The other possibility, or another possibility, would be to try to do what we did yesterday, which ended up getting it done, and try to maybe put money line parlay together with Tennessee. So the second game I'm going to talk about here on today's show, Kentucky against Tennessee. And I guess I'll start by saying my numbers favor Tennessee here. So before we even get into the matchup, before we get into the scenario, I've got Tennessee about 5.5. 5.5 is my number here. It's 4.5 on the market. So I don't know if very similar to Texas Tech, I don't know if I see enough value to lay the points, right? To lay the 4.5. But I do really like them to win this game. And so because I could potentially pair this with Houston and it's still like a very playable number, maybe that's the way I'm going to go. I'm not really saying that I'm definitely going to do that, but like, we're not going to talk about the Houston game here, but that is a game, like, I would say Houston's the least likely loser tonight of any of the 4 teams. So depending on how that comes out, if I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that is an option. That is an option. Tennessee to Houston, both money lines, is certainly an option. And the reason I think it's an option, and the reason I think they can beat Kentucky here, is I guess I've decided that I'm not going to totally put like all my stock into the 2 regular season matchups. So Kentucky won both regular season matchups, and it is worth noting that they really game planned well for Tennessee in those 2 games. I felt like, they were shorthanded in both of those. I want to say Lamont Butler missed one of those games, at least one of those games. But what they did to Tennessee across both those regular season matchups was turn the Vols into a jump shooting team. And really, but the way that Kentucky won those games, ended up winning those games, in addition to like sort of making Tennessee take tough shots, was they ran incredible half-court offense against a very good Tennessee half-court defense. Now, I do think it's worth noting, Chaz Lanier didn't play particularly well in the regular season meetings. Zakai Ziegler didn't play particularly well. I think he got hurt in one. I think he may have been hurt for both of them. I'd have to go back and look at that, but I just remember him not being like a huge factor in at least one of those games. So obviously, that would be a huge sort of swing toward Tennessee if those two can be better here. I guess the point I'll make off of that is I think Tennessee has a lot of room here for offensive improvement from the first two games, because Kentucky really did a good job at defending them. But I don't know that Kentucky's defense is better than Tennessee's offense. Where I have Tennessee's offense rated is still superior to Kentucky's defense. And that's where I'm looking and saying, okay, you've had two cracks at it. You know what you did wrong. You know what didn't work. I would put my faith in Tennessee being able to figure out how to attack a Kentucky defense that they really, in my opinion, should be able to score against. So, that's kind of what tilts me toward the Tennessee side. I think, at some point too, Lamont Butler's been banged up. Jackson Robinson's been out. How far can Kentucky go without without Robinson and with Butler banged up? That's a question, that I have to ask. And then finally, can Tennessee figure out how to slow down Kentucky's half-court offense? Theoretically, they should be able to. Tennessee rates out as a top 5 defensive team nationally. So I guess I'd be putting my faith into Rick Barnes, into the Tennessee staff here, to take what they figured out, where they got beat in those first two games, improve upon those areas. I think if Tennessee improves upon those areas, they win this game, and they probably cover this number. So I lean toward Tennessee. I think it'd be more likely for me to take Tennessee and pair it with maybe like a Houston and kind of go the route I did last night, where I had success and won my bet last night. It's an option. Other option for me, certainly one of the other options today on today's card, would be Ole Miss plus the points. Maybe just take Ole Miss as an underdog and try to sort of, maybe the third time's the charm for your boy against Michigan State, because I played against them in the first two rounds, lost, but really watching those games, I really felt like I deserved to win both. I remember talking to Brian Power after the Bryant game. We were both on Bryant, and he was just kind of like, how do we not cover 18.5 there? And then the New Mexico game was just soul crushing. New Mexico pretty much had that game covered, late 3, couldn't score to backdoor. It lands 8 when we had 7.5. So that's where I'm looking at, at two of the games tonight in the Sweet 16. Of course, there's 2 others. Haven't posted a play yet, but there's a good chance I will. So make sure you're following me on Twitter at AdamTriggerWT, and head on over to WagerTalk and just grab a 30-day package, grab a 7-day package. It's going to get you all my plays I play in any sport. We've hit 6 straight right now. We're kind of rolling. I want to keep that going into this weekend. I'm going to make sure that I don't post anything until I'm ultra sure about it. So head on over to WagerTalk, grab that, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.